Welcome to the Irish Pagan School podcast. Your hosts are authors and co founders of the Irish Pagan School here in County Waterford, Ireland, Laura O'Brien and Jon O'Sullivan. Fáilte.
What is an offering? Well, Dagda Agus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. This is Jon O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School. And as educators in Irish mythology, culture, history, and spirituality, it's a common enough question that we get asked. And so to try and break it down and make it as simple as possible, I'm going to talk about three things: a definition, an expectation, and then a clarification. So the first thing to always take on board is the definition. And you can look this up, you can search it for any multiple definitions, but the one I have here is: an offering is something which is given with correct and appropriate intent to generate connection within a spiritual relationship. That's the best definition that I can give about it. So it is something that is given. It is something that is it is about that engagement in the relationship, that spiritual relationship, be it one that you're beginning the journey with, or you have established a relationship with over time, or you're committed in some form of obligation or devotion or a contractual agreement as a devotee, a dedicant, a priest, priestess, or whatever it is. Spiritual relationships can be defined in many different ways themselves, but really to kind of niche that one down as simple as we can, spiritual relationships are connections, those which we feel we're called to or that we choose to connect and engage with. And it is that, yeah, anything else I would say about that would just be adding on more layers, which could lead to more confusion. So, definition really is: an offering is something, anything, given with appropriate intent, this energy, correct and appropriate intent to generate connection or to generate or continue or to engage in a spiritual relationship. And a spiritual relationship are connections that we choose to engage in or that we're called to engage in based on lineage, history, ancestry, transmigration of spirit. There's many different ways to create a spiritual relationship or to be called into a spiritual relationship or to choose, which is your right to say no to a spiritual relationship of any kind. So the definition of that is quite important to understand. So once you kind of get that idea of an offering, it's just that it is something that is exchanged within a spiritual relationship. Then we have to take the next stage, which is that expectation, as in being very open with ourselves and open with our explorations of our spiritual relationship, be it with ancestors, gods, guides, guardians, ourself. In many ways, we could see that we have a spiritual connection with ourself and offer and engage in, focused spirituality towards ourself as well. But the expectation is where we have to take that next step. So we have this conceptual idea of, oh, it's just something that's given. But the appropriate and correct elements of it is where we need to move into this expectations. Um, Expectations are a big part of making offerings, but also receiving offerings. It is this idea of clear intent, that appropriate intent, that clear and open understanding that is presented with the offering, with the transaction, with the item, with whatever it is. And the reason why that's crucially important is when we're engaging in our spiritual growth, when we're looking to challenge ourselves or we're called to challenge ourselves, or we're seeking a deeper spiritual fulfillment in our processes in our daily life, whatever it is that we're following on to, if we haven't taken a step before to be clear on an expectations, to be clear on managing our own expectations within ourselves of what is this interaction actually about, then how can we know for sure if it is appropriate or correct or aligned in the right way with ourselves, but then also with our deities? I've come across stories in the past where people get quite confused about, well, why does John give offerings of coffee to the Dagda? Coffee isn't native to Ireland. Why is it coffee for the Dagda? And it's not actually about the coffee. The coffee is the medium of my offerings, but what I'm actually offering him is the first cream. So whenever I open a new vessel of cream in the household, I always offer him the first cream. And it's not always in coffee. Sometimes, like, it's just no, if I'm putting cream into a dinner I'm cooking or anything else at all, I'll still pour that first part into some vessel, which will then go onto the altar space, which is beside me here. So it, it's not coffee, it's that first cream, but in my practice and experience working with the deity that I am devoted to and I work for, I have cream most commonly in my coffee. And so it's become part of my daily process, part of my regular connection with him. Make him a coffee, make me a coffee, take the moment as I'm stirring it or stirring in the cream, pouring in the hot water to think about that connection, to think about my spiritual relationship, to ask myself, is there anything there that I need to be more aware of? Is there anything that I need to be less focused on? Is there anything that he needs to express to me in some way, shape, or form. So the act itself of offering the cream in the coffee is making that space for openness within the spiritual relationship based and aligned on appropriate expectations. I don't expect that I put a coffee on the altar for the Dagda and suddenly it's a magic wish fulfilled. That's not a healthy way to deal in. Okay, sorry, I'm going to correct myself a little bit. Um, some relationships, some spiritual relationships are transactional in that way. It's a matter of like you need to turn up for whatever the offering is, whatever's being delivered, be it physical items, intrinsic items, spiritual items, energetic effort, um, anything at all, really, given with the correct and appropriate intent aligned with both your expectations and the expectations of your God, guide, and guardian can be an offering. So sometimes the relationships are purely transactional. Other times it's not. It's less about, put wishes in and get blessings out, and more about building that connection over time, turning up, building the friendship or the agreement or the understanding that we have with our ancestors, our guides, our guardians, or indeed with ourself. So the expectation piece is actually pretty important because how can we be aware really of what it is we're trying to achieve through that offering? Is it a case of, well, no, here is my commitment. I've made the commitment that I will always pour out the first cream for the Dagda. That's a given. I don't ask for anything with that. I don't expect anything with that. I'm not engaging in additional levels of, well, okay, I've made you a coffee. Can we have a conversation? Sometimes, though, you have to generate attention, awareness, or expectations within that spiritual relationship before you can express things deeper or generate. Or, sorry, I'm speaking rather obliquely, and I'm trying to be very clear, which is why I'm dealing with definitions and expectations. I'm not trying to put in any nuanced language, esoteric language, anything that's kind of occult or secret or hidden. But I'm also trying to not step across any lines of people's expectations and beliefs. There are belief structures out there that are autoproxic, which means you have to do what you're told until you understand why you're doing it, as opposed to autocratic, which is we'll tell you this and then you go forth and practice and live in the way of the religion. So there are different ways to express your spirituality, really. When we talk about this offerings, what is an offering? An offering is a way of expressing your spirituality, a way of expressing connection within your spiritual relationships, be it with deities, gods, guides, guardians, ancestors, or self. So we've talked definition, which is, again, it's just something given within that connection to generate with appropriate and correct intent to generate connection within a spiritual relationship. The expectation means that you're able to align your own energy and your own thought processes around what it is you're offering, how it is you're offering, why it is you're offering. And unless you've actually put that thought process in, it's very hard to understand if you're actually achieving what you're trying to achieve in the growth of your spiritual relationship. So the last thing then is about the clarification, and it's when we consider offerings, it really should be thought of as gifts. You're giving a gift. And so when you're giving a gift, if it is of not of any personal value, either to you or to the God, guide, guardian, ancestor, or self, then the offering has no value. I'll try and say that again. Whatever it is you're giving, if it is not of value to you or it doesn't align with the expectations of the deity, the god, guide, guardian, ancestor, or whatever, then it has no value to that. It doesn't work or function as an offering within that spiritual relationship. I'm not a smoker, but my granddad was a smoker. And so if I was trying to engage in spiritual ancestry work with my granddad, I probably would buy pipe tobacco. It's of no value to me, but it was of value to him. But it wouldn't just be any pipe tobacco, it would be the brand that he bought for himself. And so I've defined the relationship that I'm trying to achieve. It's a deeper connection with my grandfather. Wasn't the most healthy ancestor in my bloodlines, I'll be honest, but it is about dealing with those darker aspects and trying to understand why that we grow and have a better sense of self and where we come from. But it's again, it has to be specific to that relationship. It has to be niched down. There needs to be clarification of, you know, making space for time together over smoke. Now, again, I wouldn't smoke it. I don't have to smoke it. I might burn it because that is then the energetic transformation which he would have engaged in. So it's about considering the various steps, being clear on expectations, and then approaching it, the clarifications of the offering. What is it? Why is it? Where is it? And so if it doesn't have any particular value to you, then the offering has no value. I have heard times that someone would talk about offering bullets to the Morrigan because she's a war goddess. And so bullets to them represented war. That seems to be very much misaligned with the culture, the history, the information, the the nature of the Morrigan. Sure, she's a goddess of battle and conflict, but in her time it was spears. It was like blades, bows, javelins, slings, that kind of stuff. So not saying she wouldn't be aware of what a bullet is or what a bullet is used for, but energetically speaking, there's a big difference between shooting someone from a couple of hundred yards away with a bullet and walking right up and combating with them face to face, spear to spear, shield to shield. And so I'm not to say either which way this is right, that is wrong. I'm not the only one voice of any particular deity saying how it should be and how it shouldn't be. The reason why I offer first cream to the Dagda in coffees or in a vessel or in anything is because that goes back to Ireland's ancient mythology. When the Milesians took over Ireland, it became a wasteland because they tricked the Tuatha De Danann into the underworld, into, well, not the underworld, sorry, the underground through the hollow hills into the other world. And so Ireland became a wasteland. It wasn't prosperous. And the only way that was resolved was when Amergin made a new agreement with the Dagda that there would be an offering of grain and cream to him and his people whenever there was harvest. And so I have taken that information, which we have from our mythology, which we have from our ancient past, which is still part of the process of ongoing Samhain ritual, leaving stuff out for the other crowd, has been done for generations. It's now referred to as Halloween and, putting stuff out to prevent trickster invasion from the other crowd. A proper old school Halloween as opposed to mass marketed candy and costumes Halloween. But it's still some ancestral process of making offerings in order to fulfill on an obligation and to fulfill on an agreement, in order to continue the relationship, the spiritual relationship between our world and their world, between us and our deities. So, yeah, not all spiritual relationships involve transactional exchange, but some of them do require it. Like the Dagda, I'm honoring that. Like I won't do if I am the first to open a cream in this household or when I am the first to pour cream in the household, but that's my agreement with him. I don't force that or expect anyone else to do that because that's me trying to dictate their spiritual relationships. And I don't, I'm not obligated to. There are days that I couldn't or shouldn't or not couldn't or shouldn't. Sorry, there are days that I don't. But does that mean it all goes to hell in a handbasket and I've broken the relationship? No, because at this point I have built that relationship with the Dagda over time. My obligation, the one I have chosen to do, is that I say his name out loud every day. And I've made a formal agreement to do that. And even if the only person who hears me say the word, his name, the Dagda out loud is me or the cats, I'm still fulfilling on that obligation. So that is part of an exchange. That is part of a formal agreement between himself and myself. But that doesn't mean I don't engage in other practices of offerings. When members of my community come and they have concerns or ask about things, sometimes I will light a candle. I will make a gift of energetic fire, burned on a candle, put inside a cauldron which sits on the altar. So it's the offering of the energy in the fire. It's the offering of the heat and the warmth placed in the cauldron. It's the offering of coming to the Dagda space to do that and doing it in his name with a clear expectation that it's for a member of community going through something or facing a challenge or needing support at any given time. Hopefully this gives a bit of an insight or an idea into offerings. Like, what is an offering? At the end of the day, offering is a matter of choice. It is your choice, but it's your choice based on a clear definition that it is something given within a spiritual relationship with something given with appropriate intent, correct and appropriate intent within a spiritual relationship. A spiritual relationship you're called to, you choose to, you feel engaged to do so based on honest and open expectations of yourself, honest and open expectations and awareness of the truth of your God, guide, guardian, or ancestor, or indeed self that you're trying to connect with. And then a clarification to just really be sure what it is, why it is, where it is. And it could be any physical item, it could be any energetic item, me using my voice as an energetic expression. But again, the cream is a physical item, but it's a perishable item. So I'm constantly needing to clear that and replace it with items that don't perish. It might be a matter of I take them out and I wash them off once a month, or I put them underneath a cycle of sun or moon, anything like that at all, if it aligns with the narrative of the deity. The Dagda is a god of sun and moon, so it makes sense that that would connect with him in that way. But would I kind of put something in water if a deity is connected with earth? Probably not so much. Bridget, you've got fire and water either which way, or indeed earth through metal, I guess, because she's a smithing goddess too. So there are different ways that anyone can connect with deity, gods, guides, guardians within their spiritual relationships. And it's about investing the time and the energy and effort in getting to know that relationship first. Why is it that the first generic item that is given in a spiritual relationship, or even any attempted relationship, is a gift of flowers? Let's try and find out, is that appropriate? Is that interesting? And then it's a gift of food, be it like chocolates or anything. And now I'm not trying to make this sound like you're wooing a relationship or you're wooing deity, gods, guide, guardians in some way, but it's about considering how you approach relationship and how you can approach healthy and open and mature and engaged relationship. Because that is the fundamentals when it comes to spiritual relationships as well. So hopefully this has been interesting. As I said, I've done a lot of thinking and talking about what are offerings. People do ask us as educators here in Irish spirituality, what is appropriate offerings and when and where should they be doing it. We do actually have a class. We have a class on making offerings to pagan gods and goddesses. It's available at the Irish Pagan School. I'll pop a link in the below in the description if anyone does want to pick up on that and take a couple of extra steps and go a bit deeper with it. Until next time, look after yourself, take care, agus slán. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a positive review in your podcast listener. Then head over to irishpaganschool.com and enroll in one of our free or paid courses. Slán go fóill, and we will see you next time.